Hey everyone, welcome to another of these little video chats that I'm doing. For those who don't know me, I'm Sheena. I am a professional calligrapher. My business is called Crooked Calligraphy. So I teach calligraphy. That's what I love doing. But I also do calligraphy for some big brands and companies. It's a beautiful life. It's a creative life. But I didn't always have this. In fact, for 6 years before I found calligraphy, I was a corporate lawyer, and I thought I was a not creative person. I wished I had more creativity in my life. I didn't think actually that I had the talent to do anything creative. So I am trying to debunk all those, remove those obstacles, sort of help you get past those mental blocks, because I did it. And it's made such a huge difference in my life that if I can help shift that a little bit for you, that's what I'm here for. So in today's video, I'm going to tackle one myth, belief in particular. And that's, so for anyone who has tried to teach themselves calligraphy, pointed pen calligraphy, that's what I specialize in, but any kind of calligraphy really, brush, pen calligraphy, water brushes, parallel pens, whatever it is. Tell me, did it go perfectly smoothly on the first try? Was it just flowing like butter effortlessly on the first try? Probably not, right? In fact, if that's you, if it was just totally easy on the first try, then hit me up. I want to meet you. You're like some sort of calligraphy prodigy. For all people, I mean, every single student that I've taught, myself, every calligrapher I know, it's crap on the first try. It's really rough. It's like hard to figure out. But what did you think, right? So say you were trying to learn calligraphy, or even if you haven't ever tried to learn calligraphy on your own, what would you think is the thing that you need? Sort of the one word, the thing that you need to get better. Just think about that for a second. What have you heard? What from your experience? What have you sort of seen out there? What's the thing you need to get better? It's probably the P word, right? The P word is practice. I don't I don't know of any other like foul P word. Maybe there is. Don't tell me. But practice, right? Uh, if I just write the alphabet a few more times, if I just do a few more lines of the letter B, if I just one student told me of another class she had taken where their homework was to write 5 pages of the letter E. Five, like 5 of these, all of the letter E. Sounds really boring to me. Okay, but anyway, practice, right? It's totally understandable why that is what like most people think they need in order to get better at calligraphy. And this is a mistake that I see a lot of beginner calligraphers making. Just if I just kind of buckle down and keep doing what I'm doing, eventually it'll smooth out. Eventually it'll get better. So I'm gonna challenge that myth and put a little bit more color into it. It's not only practice. Practice isn't a magic bullet. Practice by itself isn't going to get you better at calligraphy. You got to practice right. Okay. So, I mean, let me explain, sort of give you a little analogy. So when I was 10, I wanted to learn how to play tennis. I think I saw like my parents playing with some friends or something. I don't know. I wanted to learn. So my mom bought me a little racket, and we would go to the park, and I just remember like for trying to learn this thing for a long time, like trying and but I would always I didn't know what I was doing. I was 10, and I just was watching the adults, and I thought they were doing this. So I would just hold my racket. If you can imagine, like the racket, I was holding it kind of like this, like a scoop, and I was just kind of hitting the balls like this, just like up into the air. And it works sometimes, right? Sometimes the ball would go up and it would go over the net and land on the other side. But do you think that if I just kept practicing this, like just hitting the ball up, do you think if I just did that for hours, day after day, just practicing this, that I would suddenly get like really good at tennis? Like, no, right? I'd just be learning this. I'd just be learning like this getting this bad habit, right? So if anybody who plays tennis or has tried it, like, you're not supposed to hit it with the racket like facing up. Like your ball just goes up into the sky and like over out of the court. Um, you're supposed to hit it like this, sort of, you know. But anyway, so if I had kept doing this, right, I would just be learning that this, I would just be getting this bad habit into my muscle memory. And then that's what I would be doing. Like, it's not right. Do you see how just practice, just doing the same thing over and over again is not necessarily going to get you to the result that you want, right? It makes sense, right? With tennis. Of course, you don't want to learn bad habits and get those into your muscle memory and then have to unlearn those later. So it's exactly the same with calligraphy. So tennis is sort of a new kind of thing that you have to learn, get into your muscles. Calligraphy is a new kind of movement and thing that you have to get into your muscles. So I want you to do something, maybe after you watch this video. If you're watching this video just at home, and maybe you can do it now, but look at your old practice sheets. If you've been trying to learn calligraphy before, look at your practice sheets and tell me, like, does there seem to be steady progress? Does there seem to be sort of a method there? Or is it just kind of like random practice, random repeating things, random copying stuff that you see on Instagram without really any method to it, without really any progress? Okay. I asked this because that's exactly how my practice sheets looked when I was trying to teach myself how to do calligraphy. My practice wasn't going anywhere. And I see this with a lot of my students as well when they were trying to teach themselves. So it's a mistake that a lot of people make. And I totally get where you're coming from, why you would think that you just need to practice. So here's what I want you to do instead. Here's what you need to do instead. If you're trying to learn calligraphy and it's not really working, instead of just, and it's like it's more frustrating than it is fun, and it just starts to feel like a chore because it's not going anywhere. I want you to stop doing what you're doing. More of the same is not going to fix it. Just like more of this practice was not gonna fix my tennis game. What you need to do is actually stop and get back to the basics and make sure your fundamentals are correct. So that means for calligraphy, for pointed pen calligraphy, it's making sure you have the right tools. So are you using a straight holder versus an oblique holder? Which one's better for your grip? Or if you're a lefty or a righty, which one's better? Are you using the right pointed nib? Are you using one that's good for beginners? Or are you using one that's sort of finicky and hard to use, even for advanced calligraphers? Okay, so do you have the right tools? Have you prepped those tools correctly? So did you clean your nib before you used it? Is your nib worn out? Like maybe you've been using it wrong and that does sort of misalign your nibs. Maybe your nib isn't good anymore. So prepping your tools correctly. And then number 3, making sure you're using the right technique. And that means the right nib angle to the page. That means, making sure your nib is rotated correctly, making sure you've got the pressure changes of calligraphy down. So you want to make sure your fundamentals are correct. And there's resources to help you do that, right? I mean, if you really want to learn calligraphy on your own, there's all sorts of like tutorials and blogs and whatever. But it's up to you to make sure that your practice is smart and not just hours and hours and hours of useless practice. Okay, so the overall framework is to practice intentionally. So practice, see what's going wrong. The ink is flowing out too fast. The nib is super scratchy. My hairlines are too thick, no matter how hard I try. The bottoms of my curves all look blobby, okay? Whatever that problem is, you got to diagnose that problem and then try and find how to tackle that in one of those fundamentals, tools, prep, or technique. Once you tackle that, then you can keep going and sort of move on to do more practice. But if you don't tackle that and you just kind of keep practicing, you're never going to get anywhere, and you're just going to give up because it's frustrating. So if we think about my tennis example, so I was trying to teach myself, right, like doing this. So I remember doing that for a long time, and then finally my parents were like, okay, we're going to get you a tennis coach, like you need help. So they got me a coach, and guys, within like 10-15 minutes of him just showing me, no, you're supposed to, like, this is how you want to hold your racket and hit the ball, follow through, hit straight, follow through. Once he showed me that, guys, in just like 10-15 minutes, I was already hitting the ball way more consistently. It was going over the net more, it was landing where it was supposed to land more, like it just was instantly better. So compare that, right? It wasn't just, and then, of course I had to practice that and practice that until it was consistent. But like, do you see the difference of practicing the wrong thing and just doing it for hours and hoping that it'll magically fix itself, or learning the right thing and then practicing that? As long as you know that you're practicing the correct thing, practicing smart, tackling the specific issues that you have and trying to fix those before sort of moving on, that's the way to get better at calligraphy. And doesn't necessarily have to take you hours a day of practice or months or years or whatever, right? You can get a surprisingly good grasp of the fundamentals really more quickly than you think without hours a day of practice. So if that's what's stopping you from learning calligraphy, this myth that you need to sit there for hours a day and just practice these boring, like 5 pages of the letter E, then I want you to get that out of your head, because that's not actually true. If you know how to practice correctly, if you've got your fundamentals right, if you know how to look at what you're doing and then diagnose your problem and then fix that so you've got a better grasp of the fundamentals, and then keep going and do it again, diagnose, look at a resource, fix that, keep going, your progress is going to be so much faster. And that's what I mean by you can learn calligraphy in 20 minutes a day. It doesn't have to take hours a day. If you have the right guidance, the right teacher, I mean, it doesn't mean you have to go out and hire like a private tennis coach or like a private one-on-one calligraphy instructor, right? Obviously that would be like the fastest way to learn, but you can, there are resources out there. There are online courses out there. Mine is one of them. And what I've seen through it is that if you do want to learn calligraphy and the sort of time and practice is what's stopping you in your head, it doesn't have to be that way. Okay. So basically, I'm telling you that you can do it. I'm telling you, don't believe those myths that it takes. There's only one way to go about it, and that's hours and hours of practice. And I'm telling you that if you can use the smart way and use that when you're building up your fundamentals, when you're building your basic strokes into letters, when you're building your letters into words, when you're building words into sentences and learning how to bounce and style, every single step along the way, if you have the right way to go about it, it will be faster and more fun and less frustration, and it will just be more of a joy. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. Again, come over onto Instagram. I'm Crooked Calligraphy on Instagram, and hit me up in my DMs. I respond to all of my DMs. Let me know if this has been a sort of useful sort of myth busting around calligraphy. And I hope overall that it will start you thinking, if you want to learn calligraphy more, I can actually do it. Maybe it's something that I can actually tackle, and let's just, continue to remove the obstacles in your way, because it's a beautiful craft. It really can change your life. And I want you to not stand in your own way of doing it if you really want to do it. All right. So thank you so much again for joining me for this video. And hit me up, comment, or send me a DM on Instagram. Let me know what you thought. Bye.